I would like for all of you to, before I give this invocation, just take a look around this beautiful courtroom. I've never seen so many department heads. I've never seen so many dignitaries. I've never seen so many beautiful constituents of Cameron County. Today we want to lift up the Brownsville Herald newspaper as a source of giving the truth always, and for giving the best in the news field for Cameron County. I want to lift up my friend, Mrs. Munchin, the Reality House. Pray a blessing on those people that need to have a new start in their life. And at the same time, Heavenly Father, we pray for the inmates of the Cameron County jail facilities. It's a hard time of the year for them, but may they grow at this time of the year, knowing that you are the best one to look to in time of need. Lord, we lift up this season known as the flu and cold season. We pray for our Cameron County Health Department to have enough flu vaccines to get around to the people. We pray for a mild season as far as colds and flu. We pray for our tax department. We pray for those that struggle each year to pay their taxes. But Lord, we pray that this year they will think of paying their taxes even before buying Christmas presents. We pray for wisdom and direction for each one of the department heads and the leaders of Cameron County. We pray for the Feast of Sharing here in Brownsville on Friday, the 17th, and we pray for tomorrow's Feast of Sharing in Harlingen. We thank you for the giving of time and efforts on behalf of the HEB markets, the cities, the police departments, the fire departments, all the volunteers it takes to feed maybe 15 to 18,000 people between those two feedings. Finally, we pray for today's agenda. We pray for what's right for Cameron County. We pray for the direction of Cameron County. We pray for the wisdom and understanding of what's needed, not for today, but for the future of all our people. In Jesus' name, amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started with our regular agenda, I'm going to read something into the record. I have a letter dated November the 12th, 2006, addressed to Sofia Benavides. Dear Mrs. Benavides, I hereby appoint you Cameron County Commissioner, Precinct 1, in accordance with Local Government Code, Chapter 87.042. Your appointment reflects the confidence that I and other members of our community have in your leadership and integrity, as well as my deep appreciation for the commitment that you and I share to the issues that matter most to our community. The many years you have served as a public servant and a community leader offer strong evidence of your abilities and your dedication to improving people's lives. As you know, I hold a deep admiration for your husband's legacy as a city and county leader. And I was proud to call him a friend. I know that I'm joined in these sentiments by the people in this county, and this appointment reflects my respect for the will of people expressed in the election of your husband. In closing, please accept my congratulations and best wishes for this appointment. If there is anything I or my staff may do for you, please do not hesitate to call me. Sincerely, Gilberto Hinojosa, Cameron County Judge.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you for inviting me here this morning to say a few words about your appointment, Judge, to replace our beloved friend, Commissioner Pete Benavides, his widow, a dear friend and one who knows about county government. But before I say a word or two about Sophia, in which I believe she's, her capabilities and all, I would be remiss, Judge, if I didn't congratulate you for the 12 years of public service that you've afforded the people of Cameron County. I know that you serve with compassion in your heart. I know that the many times you have called my office, you've always wanted to do what's right for the people of Cameron County. I know your colleagues share the same passion, Edna, David, John. And Pete and I spoke many times about the times we used to go to the clinic and get our shots there, how important health care services were for our people. Affordable housing, he talked to me about job creation for our people, for his people, especially in Precinct 1. There were so many things that he and I spoke about that were reflective, I'm sure, of what each and every one of you holds dear in your heart to do for the people in your precincts and, of course, the people in Cameron County, Judge. Historians will obviously look back and study and dissect what Cameron County has done over the 12 years, and I'm sure the report will be favorable in terms of all the successes and progresses that have been made. Today is a very special day for me because I reflect as I'm sitting there. Most of the time, as you and others sit down and outline a speech, I couldn't do that. I was just excited about being here this morning and given an opportunity to talk about Sophia, who was here before any one of us even set foot, even the great Joe Rivera. She was already working in the county judge's office with Oscar C. Dancy as a teenager. And I remember my dad, who worked in the sheriff's office, who kept an eye on everyone in this courthouse, the old courthouse, telling me, anda con Sofia, she knows everything about what's going on in that office and she'll get it done for you right away. So I've had great memories of yesteryear. I can't tell you how grateful I am to you, Judge, and the commissioners for the restoration of this courthouse, because this courthouse obviously has so much history in it. So I walked up the stairs this morning. I remember walking up the stairs as a young kid, looking over the counter, barely talking to the deputy sheriffs, old Walter Keller, and then Brian, and I could name them all, and the Sheriff Boynton Fleming way back in the 50s, early 50s. And I really saw the spirit of all those people who used to serve our constituents with all their heart and might. I guess I was exposed to public service at an early age. And over the years, obviously, I had the opportunity to come to this old courthouse. And I kept on dealing with people like Sophia and others who, in their hearts, every day got up with a desire and the passion of serving people. And I was able to work here as the county treasurer, as you know, and the county commissioner. So I have great memories of the old courthouse. And today is very special for me, not only to be here to reflect on what's happened over this last few years, but especially to talk about Sophia. She's a lady in every sense of the word. She defines goodness, and she defines work ethic. She's been a working lady all her life, and rearing her family and working with her partner. And the partnership that she and Pete had were one that I think all of us as elected officials want to have, and I know some of us do, but not all of us have that partnership where we can talk about issues, we can talk about doing for those that are less fortunate our very best so that they can have an opportunity to live in a good world and to create a better quality of life for each and every one of them each day that we serve in public office. Sophia is going to follow the tradition that Pete established in public service for the people in his precinct. There is no doubt in my mind. And I'm just very, very happy today to know that that kind of public service will continue in Precinct 1. One partner is still left, and I think that as long as Sophia breathes the air that's God-given her, that she will do everything in her heart and her power to do the right thing, because that's the kind of person she is. I can't thank you enough for giving her that opportunity. I will be holding public meetings around my district, and I've talked to David, who I respect very much, and Etna, and John, and I will be holding public meetings around Brownsville because it's the biggest community in my district. But I promised Sophia that I will be doing that in Precinct 1, which is a large area, so that she can have also the opportunity to sit with us and discuss the issues at the local level. County government is the closest form of government to people. Many people think that federal or state government is, but it's not. You come in contact with your people every day for just so many different reasons, and everybody comes to the courthouse for one reason or another. And I respect the fact that you endeavor each day head on to try to look at the issues that are important for people at the local level. State government should and will and must partner up with you, all of you, to ensure that that partnership is strong and that we provide the services that the people here in Cameron County are looking for. So today, I know Pete's smiling. I know he is. Pete has such a great heart. And I told him the older you get, the bigger you're going to get because your heart is growing and it's love for people. Sophie shares that same love. And I know that she's going to serve with distinction. And I come today to offer her my support. Unequivocally, I will do everything I can to help her and work with you to ensure that the people of Cameron County are served and that they are given the opportunity to voice their concerns before this body and also before the state of Texas. I really appreciate Bob's prayer today because government is of and for and by the people. And I urge the people of Cameron County to continue to get involved, to participate in the political process. It's important. I also would be remiss if I didn't congratulate your successor. I have talked to him already, and I have assured him that we need to come together for the good of the people. And I know that Sophia shares those thoughts as well. Nothing's more important than unity. And I urge you all to read the San Antonio Express News today. There's a wonderful article in the Conference of Bishops, Catholic bishops there, that really moved me to think twice about everything that's going on in our world. And with that, Judge, I congratulate you, and I will be coming back early next year with a proper resolution and presentations that will afford me an opportunity to congratulate you publicly for your many years of service to the people of Cameron County. Thank you.
before I begin, may I take a moment to say thank you for all that has been said about me and my beloved husband, Pete, both this morning and during the last several weeks. I can't tell you how much your words and expressions of support mean. It is such comfort to know I have so many dear friends in this community. By the same token, that is why I am so honored to have been asked to serve as your next Precinct 1 Commissioner. I want to thank each member of the court for the kind words they have said during the last few weeks, and for the confidence and trust that has been placed in me, and which I hope to be able to repay to the people of this county. As you can imagine, the last few weeks have been very difficult for myself and our family. I know that Pete meant a lot to many of you as well, but also know one thing more. As much as he may have meant to you, you meant more to him. I am proud to be able to carry on his legacy by completing projects he began and continuing to fight for the issues that he fought for, but also by always remembering that ours is a government by and for the people. I look forward to working with you, my new colleagues, as well as other elected officials and the community to make a real difference in the real lives of real people. I pledge to never forget about them, and I assure you that as long as I sit on this court, you won't either. In many ways, being here today is the completion of a journey that began in 1969, when I began my career as an employee in this very courthouse. I had been here a lot earlier than that because my mother worked here for 44.5 years. I had a sister who worked here 16 years, and I remained working here for 13 years. I've had different jobs over the years, but I have always held this community and the people who work for them in this building close to my heart. Before I conclude, I would like to offer a personal invitation to each of you and to every resident of Precinct 1 to attend my swearing-in ceremony to be held here in the Commissioner's Courtroom this Saturday, November the 18th at 2 p.m. Judge, thank you so much. John, David, and Edna.
Thank you.
I promise to work with each and every one of you to bring this county forward. And I hope that you will work with me in completing my husband's projects. Once more, because I can't say it enough, thank you again for your kind words of comfort and support. Thank you.
Judge, you have made history. Has there ever been 2 female county commissioners on this court?
No, but I'm leaving after January 1, so it's up to... No, and there's never been but one, and for a short period of time before you, and so I just, you know, it's funny, on the same period of time when the United States of America will soon have the first female Speaker of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., being the number 3 person in the country, 3 heartbeats away from the presidency, or 2 heartbeats until her, right? And then today in Cameron County, to have 2 county commissioners leading our county, I think that only bodes for good things for Cameron County, in my opinion. I think that the the vision and the strengths and the caring that women bring to public service is something that we should always encourage. And that was a big factor that it went into my mind when I was considering who to appoint. There was a lot of good people out there who I considered, and they would have been great county commissioners as well. But when it came down to having to make a decision, the three factors that came into play for me were one, that I wanted to appoint someone who understood this community, understood that the precinct 1, and who cared about it deeply, and who knew what needed to be done to work the complexities of county government based upon her years of service and her years of serving as a partner with her husband. Because anybody who knew Pete knew that Sophie was by his side all the time, and when the decisions were made, those were decisions that were made not just by himself, but a lot of times talking to her, you know, bouncing things off of her, and I know that a lot of what came out of him during the time that he was here and in the city was a reflection not just of his beliefs, but of the beliefs that Sophie holds. Secondly, I thought it was critical that the heart that is represented or was represented is, because his soul is still here in Pete Benavides, for the people of Cameron County, for the little people of Cameron County, needed to be present in this appointment. And I don't think that anyone doubts that Sophie is going to follow his footsteps in terms of the compassion for the little people of our community, to the working people, the people that sometimes we set aside and say, well, you know, that's not a priority. We need someone on this commissioner's court that always first and foremost is going to say, well, what about them, just like Pete did. And I don't think anyone can represent Pete's beliefs and caring for the little people of Cameron County. And finally, like I said, I really do believe that that women in government offer the best to government. That they are in a position of having the experience that most men don't have, of raising a family, of caring for a family, of loving on a family, of worrying and staying up at night about children, and caring about people who are defenseless, because those are their kids, and have that compassion just engraved into their heart, into their mind. And I think that has been reflected in some of the things that I've seen you do in the time that you've been here, Commissioner Tamayo. And I really believe, you know, that when you have a position like Precinct 1 Commissioner, where you're dealing probably with one of the poorest communities in the entire United States, that you need someone in that position that has that compassion that a mother would have, that a mother that runs a family would have, that someone who deeply cares about people that need to be cared for. And I truly believe that Sophie, when she takes this position, will reflect all these values that I've just mentioned, but particularly the values that I believe are so critical in raising a family, because this is what it's all about. This is what we're doing here. This is why we're involved. This is why we put up with these horrible campaigns sometimes, because we care about our families, and we want to make sure that we do everything possible to create the environment that our families can grow positively. So what better than a woman who raised a family so well to lead this county? Thank you.
Judge, I've always been under the impression that the women were in charge. They just allowed the men to think they were. And that's just kind of the way it is. But Sophie, I want to congratulate you. We're all going to look forward to working with you. The county is kind of like a ship at sea sometimes. We're here to help lead it, steer it in the right direction, get it to where it needs to go for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of the people in the county. We have rough seas, sometimes the winds blow real hard sometimes, but there's always the horizon out there that we can look forward to, where there's some smooth seas and there's some good sailing. And those are the times that we can really shine and we can do good things for everyone. And I look forward to working with you so we can accomplish a lot of the things that need to be done for the people of Cameron County and for our constituents and the things that are going to make a difference in people's lives. And I'm sure you're going to commit yourself to that. You always have. We've known each other a long time, and we're not always going to agree, but we can always agree to disagree. So look forward to it, Sophie.
Okay.
Judge, I'd like to say something. I know I made the comment that we're making history, and I think that's tremendous. But the real history that we will read about in years to come is a history that shows what Sophie gets accomplished. Things that Pete started, and she'll finish, and new projects. She's an innovative person. I admire her very much, so the real history will be her accomplishments, not so much the fact that we've made history today. And needless to say, I'm proud of that. But just like when I decided to run, I didn't think about the fact I'm a woman. I decided it was the fact that I wanted to make a difference and unite people in my precinct and in communities. And with the help of this court, as well as advisory committees across my precinct, we've done that. And Pete and I, Sophie, talked about that, and like I told Pete, I am trying to help him get that clinic through the University of Texas, and just this morning I got a call following up on that, and Pete wanted that so badly, and Pete was the type of person that everybody loved the minute they met him, and these doctors from Houston just fell in love with him the minute they met him. They said he's so sincere, he's so open, he's got such wonderful jokes, which he shared with them. And so, Sophie, I intend to continue working with you, especially in that one project that was so dear to Pete's heart. And I congratulate you and I welcome you, and not as a woman, but as a fellow commissioner.
And as you saw, I allowed Edna to go first before I did, because I know what I have to do. It's something that I've been trained to do at home. I believe very strongly that most of us act out what we're told by our wives a lot of times. And I give my other half a lot of credit, because I've learned to respect a lot of issues that were inconsequential and not very important to me in my growing up time and in my formative years. But I wish to congratulate you, Sophie. I welcome you to this commission. And when you see me sitting here looking up, it's not because I'm not paying attention. But after 3 meetings here, when I sit here in this chair as a representative of the people that we serve, those people that you expressed a concern about, I'm in awe that we are allowed the opportunity to serve in a place such as this that we have to work in. And I want to, at this point, thank the commissioners and the judge here present for having supported this project through rough times. I came in toward the tail end of this project being on board, you know, and we had some tumultuous years in trying to bring it to fruition. But when you see me staring and looking up, it's two things. One, the site is beautiful. Two, when I look at the monitor and I look down, I can see a spare spot. You know. So again, I welcome you personally. And me, my wife, and my office are there to help in any way you can, as you know. So, thank you.
All right. Yes. Okay, let me take up one item out of order before we move on to the regular agenda, and that's item number 2 of the supplemental agenda. We have a bunch of supplemental items because on Friday or Thursday or Thursday when we put this thing together, I was talking to Remy, and I kept thinking of things that I wanted to put on the agenda one right after another. And he'd already prepared the agenda, posted, and he just kept adding supplements on it. But anyway, item number 2 on the first supplemental item, consideration and possible action regarding the dedication of Brownie Road Park in honor of the late Pedro Pete Benavides, County Commission Precinct 1, and naming Brownie Road Park as the Pedro Pete Benavides County Park. Do I hear a motion to that?
So
Make that
moved.
motion, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner, I don't know who went first, but I'll let both of y'all make the motion and second it simultaneously. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Yeah.
One comment. Can we take D off of the name and just put Pedro Benavides County Park?
Yeah.
I don't like D, Pedro
Right,
Benavides. I
that's
just
right.
want Pedro Benavides, if it's okay with
Yeah.
Well, I would ask Sophie what she thinks.
Pedro.
Pedro Pete Benavides Park. All right, that's the motion and that's the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. And we will have the naming ceremony before I leave, okay? We'll have the naming ceremony before I leave. We'll do something real soon. Okay, going back to the regular agenda, there's a public comment registration form signed by Russell Judah? I'm sorry.
My name is Russell Judah. I live on South Padre Island. Sadly and unfortunately, I live in Precinct 1, and I haven't had a county commissioner in recent weeks. So I come to you today as the full court to make a few brief comments on the subject of a proposed TIRZ. It's underway in Port Isabel. I'm sure you have heard about it. It's my understanding that the request for a waiver of certain procedures has been forwarded to the court. I don't know whether you've acted on it yet or not. The purpose of that is to shorten the hearing period that's required. The purpose of that request, as I understand it, will be to shorten the hearing period. At the present time, that whole proposal is a little bit confusing, and my interest in it is not from the proposal in Port Isabel. I don't pay taxes in Port Isabel. I do pay taxes in Cameron County, and quite a lot of them. And it entails, in some respects, is way I understand it, some tax abatement of some taxes. So I'm asking you to be very attentive and very thorough in your consideration of anything that comes to you about a TIRZ, which is a tax investment recapture or something. I don't know. It involves building a large condo in Port Isabel. And please, let's go through the full procedure as provided by state law. But I know one thing, when some people get a tax abatement, somebody else pays the tax. And so please, I ask as county commissioner, please go very slow, because if you pass certain waivers and so forth, real estate developers obtain a vested interest in the procedure. It's all very complicated, and I'm not here to explain it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. Is that it on the public comment?
Yes.
Budget amendments, line item transfers and/or salaries. Did anybody have anything else that you want to take out of order yet? All right. Salaries, any questions, concerns, comments, complaints?
Were there any? Because I didn't get any in my...
I didn't. Any changes? Did you
I
get
didn't get any for number 2 in my packet. There weren't any?
Do I hear a motion to table?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garza. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. October 17th, and approval of minutes, October 17th, regular and special meetings. There a motion to
I'm ready.
approve by Commissioner Tamayo.
So moved.
Second by Commissioner Garza. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Claims.
There's some additional...
I didn't get additional.
We have 2 additional claims to present. Check number 170436, payable to Coleman, Hall, and Hines for property insurance, covers the insurance at the island and Port Isabel properties that are subject to tidal surge and wind and tidal surge damage, flood damage. Also, we have a transfer from the park operating fund to the park INS fund, amount of $372,000 to fund its INS requirements due December 1st. We request these additional claims be included in the list published.
Any motion by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 5, consideration appointment.
Note my abstention on check number, let's see, the fund 390, and also check number 00170316.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 5, consideration appointment of Manny Science to the annual United Way campaign to serve as Cameron County's campaign coordinator. Do I hear a
So
motion to
moved.
approve by
Second.
Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Tamayo? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item number 6, consideration and authorization to hold a public hearing regarding the cancellation of a portion of subdivision plat being 51.09 acres of land consisting of 34.27 acres out of Block 26 and 16.82 acres out of Block 27 of the San Benito Irrigation District. Motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 7, consideration and authorization to adopt an order regarding the cancellation of a portion of a subdivision plat being 51.09 acres of land consisting of 34.27 acres out of Block 26 and 16.82 acres out of Block 27. I'm not seeing anybody from the Department of Transportation walking up here, okay? So, of the San Benito Irrigation subdivisions.
Morning, Judge and County Commissioners. This is a request from Frank Robles. Actually, it's just a request to cancel the lot line for those 2 tracts, the 34.27 acres and the 16.82 acres, and refer it back to the original 51.09 acres. Basically, what we're doing is keeping the owner of the property wants to keep it intact. He's not able to market the property as it is, so by statute we can do that. The court is authorized to do that, and I believe legal already reviewed it. And it's just a recommendation that we cancel the lot line for those 2 tracts.
All right, motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is a public.
Okay, wait a minute, we're in the public hearing.
Oh, we're in the
Motion to-
public hearing.
That was the motion to
end
the public hearing.
And anybody wish to add anything to this or speak on this issue?
I assume that Mr. Robles is aware that if in the future he might decide to put these lot lines back, he's going to have to go through a new subdivision process? Yes, Commissioner, he has that option. I think what he's going to opt to do is come back and do what we call a site plan of 10-acre tracts, and we'll make that determination to make sure he's legal with all the subdivision rules and regulations. He has that option. He'll come back later, probably not to the Commissioner's Court, but just through a determination that he can do that.
Because we've got one that
happened back in 1930 that still creates problems.
Well, yeah, but it's understood that legally he can do that, and he'd be able to market this other, the 51 acres better
He's
than...
got to start over, he's got to have to really start over.
That's correct. Thank you.
He understands the process, that's what you're telling us.
Yes, he does.
All right, there's a motion and a second to end public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Motion to, item number 7, the consideration and authorization to adopt an order regarding the cancellation of a portion of subdivision plat being 51.09 acres of land consisting of 34.27 acres out of Block 26 and 16.82 acres out of Block 27 of San Benito Irrigation District, Irrigation Company subdivision. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Or authorize. Who made the motion?
I did.
Motion by Commissioner Wood, second. By Commissioner Gatsa. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 8, consideration possible approval of amendment to T-Net TICS agreement for installation and service of inmate telephones. Have you all seen that? Any questions? I think the sheriff's here.
I have one question in regard to this, and this is, you know, we're agreeing actually to sell 2 years' worth of time for $200,000, right? That's the bottom line.
And 4 kiosks
And what?
4 kiosks.
Let's hear from the sheriff and see what...
Yeah, good morning, Judge, good morning, Commissioner. That's correct. It's just an extension of that inmate service that we have had in the past, and we have worked very well with this particular company, and we think this is a benefit here to the county. It's a benefit to the sheriff's office. They're willing to give us a certain amount of money so we can go ahead and try to see we can get what is known as GPS, a global positioning system. That's for the units, for the safety of people and for the safety of the officers and for better response. The other is the additional bonus that would come to the county budget.
Well, my concern here, Sheriff Lucio, is that we're agreeing to extend the contract through July 2nd of 2010 for $200,000, right?
That's right.
And we have not gone out for bids. We have not seen what service or what a RFP might bring to us if we went out for RFPs. We're, you know, I just don't want to sell ourselves short. That's my bottom line. I don't want to sell. The last time when they came on, they gave us $400,000 or...
Probably so, Commissioner. At that time, when we first made the, when we first made a deal with these people, we got about $200,000, and we got all the sheriff's office and other equipment that we needed as far as bringing up the new technology, such as computers that we didn't have at the time, and that the county at that particular time did not have enough funds to go ahead and give us that kind of equipment that we needed. And later on, we did get additional money, and right now it's for an extension of 2 years for $200,000. I believe it's a good deal. I don't see any problems with it, and we discussed this with the legals, and under the state contract, we can extend it for 2 years. So that's what we're looking at, without having to go through all this kind of proposals.
And I understand it's a license agreement and we can do it. I just want to not shortchange us in this contract being more worth than $200,000 in 2008.
Well, I think it's incorrect to say that it's worth $200,000. I mean, we make a whole bunch of money off this contract from the inmates on a yearly basis. I don't know what the total revenue that we get, but it's somewhere in the $300,000 or $400,000 range, in addition to the $200,000. Am I right?
This is just a bonus.
Yeah, this is just a bonus.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
And so we're not letting him use our phone for $200,000. I just wanted to clarify that. Or letting him put phones in there. We generate an enormous amount of money. When we negotiated this contract last time around, it was a negotiated contract. I mean, we let people propose, and we negotiated with this particular company and got this deal, which was far beyond what we had gotten before from any other company. So I think that what the sheriff is suggesting is that we've been working well with them. They're still generating a significant amount of income for the county, and an extension of $200,000 at this time. An extension of 2 years with an additional bonus of $200,000 is something that we recommend, given the track record of this company, both in terms of providing service and in terms of generating income for the county. So, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, I have not heard a single person complain about this, except, you know, families of inmates that are not liking to get these bills when they're calling in, but that's an issue that, you know, we don't have control over.
We've had experience with the previous companies, Commissioner Garza, and really this is one of the best ones that we have come with, and we've dealt with them with several throughout the years, and I try to look out for the best interest of the county, and we continue to do that as far as that goes. So we feel that this time this is something that is worthwhile.
Okay, any other questions?
And again, the 200,000 is the bonus for extending it 2 years.
It's a bonus. It's not the money that comes from the phone. No, this is just a bonus. And if at any time, for whatever reason, things don't work out the way we want to, you know, we can always go ahead and cut them up. In other words, if they don't give the service that we have demanded and that we require from this company. And not that we plan to do anything like that in the future, but if that comes to light, then we will take action as we need, if we see fit to it.
Yeah, please don't misunderstand my question.
No, I know
My
that.
question is, I know we're making money. On the contrary, I think we're making too much money of a population that's incarcerated, because I've seen some of those folks that come, Judge, with their phone bills and see the kind of charges they get when they accept a collect call from an inmate. You know, my concern is simply, you know, if we need to extend the contract now without going out for RFPs, there could be other people out there that would be willing to provide the service. We don't know. My only concern is the unknown, not the known. I like the contract we have now. It is providing revenues, but it is just a matter of 2 years extension on the license with the unknown of what it's really worth to this county. That's my only concern.
Any other comments? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Item number, thank you, Sheriff. Hi, Tommy. 9, consideration possible action regarding the boot camp vocational program.
Did you have any background information on this? I didn't have it in my package. This is all right here? Because I know you had, you informed the rest of the commissioners, and I never heard from you, so
Right.
that was my concern.
Right, yes. First of all, good morning, Judge, Commissioners Court. I had requested to be on the agenda today to have the discussion pertaining to our vocational trade program there with the Cameron County Juvenile Justice Department. I came before Commissioners Court back in mid-2005 with an idea of wanting to implement a vocational trade program for the young people that we work with there in our department. And the whole concept was to provide them these opportunities that hopefully would plant the seeds that then we could use to guide them into enrolling into places like TSTC, UTB, etc., and assist them with financial aid to do so through working with those campuses. At that time, back in mid-2005, it was agreed that I would be able to, if I could come up with a funding source, which I did. What I did was leased 5 of our beds from boot camp to counties throughout the state of Texas. So we started up contracts with several counties who were very interested, and as a result, in 2005 we generated a little better than $56,000 as a result of that. In 2006 we generated $104,770 as a result of that. This year currently we're at a little better than $13,000. And so what we were doing when we set up the program, we worked directly through Mr. Yates, the auditor's office, to implement the program, to hire instructors, to buy equipment, and do all the things that we were trying to do to help these young people. And we have been doing that all along, but what I am proposing today is I would like to simply create a budget that we would put in place in order for us to manage it better, in order to know where we are throughout the year in terms of the program implementation, the cost of the program, And simply from a fiscal perspective, that we just felt that it would be a better thing to do is to actually establish a budget, just as we do with our 4A money from the state and some of the other funding sources that we get from around the state and from the feds, in order for our office to be able to monitor those funds throughout the year. We're wanting to establish a fund of $75,000 that would be our operating budget for this year. There's actually more funds than that. And what we would do is, like we do with the other funds that we get from the state, is throughout the year as monies are generated and we keep a record of our expenses, we come to Commissioner's Court to do an amendment to that budget based on those facts.
Tommy, you expect future years of this operation to be funded as it currently is being funded?
It's pretty much self-sufficient, yes, sir. We haven't had any problems with having to request any funds from the county's general fund or for any, at budget time, we've not requested any funds to be added from the general budget in any form or fashion. We have just been very blessed that we've been able to do business with other counties that are willing to assist us with this, and as a result of that, we're able to basically create our own funding source to have implemented our GED and our vocational trade school program, which now we've actually even expanded that beyond the boot camp. We now actually at the teen center, as of last Monday, we operate our own GED vocational trade program that's now offered to other kids from the community or other probation kids that are not necessarily in the boot camp. And so our goal, and of course the vision I've had all along, is to someday actually have a vocational school there on the property, and we're still working toward that. We hope someday to have that, but in the meantime, we just continue to expand the services, include more kids into the program. We recently had our 4th graduating class of GED vocational trade school students, some of which we've enrolled into UTB, some of which are enrolled in TSTC, and we are working in conjunction with those people to try to assist our kids with financial aid and so forth, so that we can, rather than have young people who are a financial burden to the community, create taxpayers for this community, and that's the ultimate goal behind this process.
Tommy, would you look at these numbers that you've provided us? I find a little discrepancy of about $200. I'm assuming we're looking at the 75,000 as an even number. Should that be 75,200?
Could be. I would have to put a calculator to it. Okay. I'll revisit that and make sure on the numbers. Yes, sir. I apologize for that.
You know, I believe that we really need to encourage this kind of program in the boot camp. One of the things that we've seen with a lot of our students, particularly trouble students, is that a lot of them are not interested in going the academic route. The problems that you see in the dropout rate, in some respects, stem from the way that our educational system has been set up over the last 100 years. It's designed to push people towards an academic study program that at the end of the 4 years of high school prepares them to go to college, many of which don't want to go to college. And what happens is that they're sitting in these classes on English literature and so on and so forth, and it's not something that they're particularly interested in, and they get bored and they start performing poorly in school and eventually drop out and so forth. When we're dealing with our kids that are in this category, what's important for us is that when we graduate them out of the boot camp, that not only have we dealt with the issues that have caused them to get into trouble, like the emotional issues, behavioral issues, drug and alcohol issues, but also that we've prepared them to be able to face the world, that they may be able to be productive if they elect not to take the academic route. Obviously, if someone wants to take the academic route, then we encourage that.
Yes.
But if they elect not to take the academic route, then we want to make sure that we give them tools when they finish that give them the opportunity to get a job, to see that there's another life besides getting into trouble, and make them more prone to stay out of trouble during the time that after they're released. So this is a good thing. I encourage that. I really believe that this is where we need to go as a significant component of the juvenile boot camp. And I encourage you to build this program, to make it a permanent structure of the boot camp, in a sense where we are giving these kids an opportunity to come out, maybe even with a higher level of licensing or credentials, that perhaps maybe we might look into partnerships with, you know, Cameron Works or TSTC, where we're having these kids pre-enroll in college programs that are academic, that are vocational programs, and give them the skills that they need, that either allow them to, when they come out, to be already certified to perform these functions, these jobs, or it's an easy transition to a vocational ed program that TSTC or someone else has. So
Yes, sir.
I think this is the way we need to go, and I really believe it is a critical component to the rehabilitation of these kids. And
Well,
you have-
Judge, excuse me.
Go ahead.
The one thing is, in working with that population, and I have done it, many times it's not so much that they don't want the academic route, they can't afford it. And if we give them something that's short-term, that helps them work and help their family, then they take it from there. Down the line, they might go on with academics, and they do that. But it's that necessity. And as you well know, I don't know what the percentage is, Tony, but I would venture to say that almost 99.9% of the kids that end up at your boot camp are from very low-income families.
That's correct.
So what they want is to be trained to where they can, when they get out, or possibly shortly after that, to help their family. And it's a vicious cycle if we don't break that cycle.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
agree with you, Judge. I certainly hope that we continue building on this.
Well, and we currently have a partnership, the judge mentioned partnerships, Commissioner Tamayo, and part of this is a partnership with Cameron Works. We have a partnership with Gulf Coast Trade School, and we're currently even looking at the possibilities where we're locating a funding source, and it appears that we may be successful, but we're going to actually create a construction program where we will actually build houses on blocks. Then we would set up some sort of a program through the county, I would assume possibly through Commissioner's Court, where there would be a committee to review applications, and people in the community of need that would place an application for these houses, and then we would move those houses onto particular properties that possibly lots that have been repossessed for tax delinquency, something along that line. It's a program that's already in place in New Waverly, Texas, and I personally went to visit what the young people there had constructed, and they have a neighborhood, an entire neighborhood that was constructed in this manner. And we're hoping to build such a program here to that level where we would have available to the community these types of homes that would be provided for people of need that would qualify and would agree that they would take care of the home and do all the things necessary to be a good community partner.
I have a couple of questions, Judge. Up to now, how are we paying those expenses that we're incurring?
From that same fund, the only thing is that the only difference is there's never been a budget established for it, and all I'm looking to do is establish a budget. We run all the purchase orders through Mr. Yates. He screens them to make sure that they're applicable toward the vocational trade school program. He and I converse on a regular basis about this, and it just made, you know, because we get audited on all our budgets from the state and from an external source here in the county, and we constantly get all these audits because we have so many different grants and funding sources. It just makes sense that when the auditors come to do the audits and they ask about the vocational trade school program, which is included in our system, that we have a budget in place that we can identify and say, well, here's our expenses, here's our income, and this is our balance, and these are all the documents that reflect, you know, what we're doing in that particular program.
So then you're recognizing a funding source as that revenue?
That's what I've understood so far, unless I'm wrong.
A few years ago, the Commissioners Court voted to designate this funding for that purpose. It takes all the revenues. It doesn't take any of the costs and doesn't offset any costs. So it's pure revenue. Now, there are costs associated with it, but they're built into his normal budget. So there have been no costs associated or applied against those revenues. And so that's one of the issues. The other issue is the budgets are set up with the Board of Judges, which Judge Hinojosa is a part of this. The Juvenile Board has jurisdiction over the budget of the Juvenile Department of Probation. So the Commissioners Court usually allocates a general fund allocation to the juvenile department, and it's the Board of Judges that actually approves the budget.
But by doing what we're doing today,
Right.
we're not compromising $75,000
No.
from the general
I
budget.
mean, essentially,
Well,
what
I appreciate
your
the
function is
fact-
the ministerial part.
I appreciate the fact that you're generating your own fund to do this, and I move we approve this item.
The motion?
Second.
Second.
So,
Any
so
further?
so the motion will be that a separate budget be set up for this. Am I correct?
Yes.
The motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Consent items, item 10 to 22, travel item number 23. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments, complaints on any of these
Motion
items?
for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo. Is there a second to that?
I just have one correction, and I can't remember which. It was one of the committees that was named there. It was Mari, not Maria, unless it's somebody else.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments, complaints?
One of the items on 18 and 19 having to do with engineering and design for a park. I guess my question is perpetual, do we have an M&O budget once we get that park built, when we build it?
Which
We
one?
build it? Which one is it? 17 and 19, it's Lorella's Park.
18 and 19.
18 and 19? Let me tell you, I've been talking to because I know you've had those concerns, and I've been talking to Javier about this. One of the things that we have, I think, if you look at what is reality with respect to trailer spaces on Isla Blanca Park, you'll find that the fees that we charge there are way below where we need to charge.
No question about that.
And I think what I have, I have on the agenda today, and I know that you've had a concern in the past, Commissioner Ward, about this issue. I have on an agenda for us to sell bonds to build the parks that we have proposed to build, and M&O is a big concern that that you've had. I believe that we need to take a look at these trailer park fees and raise them accordingly to do two things. One, to put them in a competitive level to where they should be, and secondly, that they generate enough revenue to be able to pay for the M&O for these facilities. And I think that you can get to that.
And if that's what we can do, if we can accomplish that, then I don't have a problem, because I understand the need for parks throughout the county for all the county constituents to use and everyone to enjoy and get out of the mode of not having anything to do, get them in a good place, safe place to go, to where they can not get in trouble, where they can exercise, where they can become healthier and all these things. I continue to have the concern about maintenance and operation as long as, and I've talked to Javier about it also, and I've told him as long as he can assure me that we're going to figure out some way to maintain and operate these parks, then I'll support it, but.
Well, my proposal is that we do exactly that, is that we look at what's being charged. I mean, one of the things that I found out when this whole Isla Blanca mess occurred was that the way that park is handled is not accessible to the public. I mean, I don't know where anyone got the impression that the proposed elimination of that park through the Isla Blanca Park development was going to somehow make that portion of Cameron County less accessible. It is not accessible. I mean, I remember I met with the Federal Park residents, and one of the biggest complaints that they had was allowing those other people, quote unquote, who were on the beach, allowing them to use their bathroom facilities. And I kind of got taken back by that statement, because, well, I thought those bathroom facilities and the facilities that were available throughout that park belonged to the public, but it doesn't. It doesn't. And so, and what happens is that you have perpetual leases out there, and I think that needs to be looked at. I mean, these perpetual leases where people continue to own the right to be there for years is something that I think doesn't reflect the statement that this park is open to the public, because they don't.
It's very much counter to being open. to the
Counter
public.
to that, and so if that's the case, if we're going to have, and you know, this is prime real estate. I mean, we've got people sitting on these, how much are they paying per month?
Depends on the services they're receiving, but anywhere from
It
two
depends.
something to...
There's three different rates that we have, but the cheapest is about $190. And then-
$190 a month for a trailer on South Padre Island. You can't get a condominium for $190 a day on South Padre Island. And I just think that needs, I mean, if we're looking at M&O issues, then I think we need to look at that issue. I think it's a fair thing to do to the rest of the community. Cameron, this is an asset that belongs to Cameron County. We made a decision as a Commissioners Court not to develop it, but by the same token, the revenue that's generated there should help us in paying for the community parks that are so critical for the development in our youth and our rural areas throughout Cameron County. So my proposal, and it may not happen while I'm here, but my proposal to Javier is to come up with a budget on the M&O that is part of it, of which is generated through increased fees at the trailer park.
And Javier, you're telling me you can do that?
Yes, I dropped one off at your office
Yes,
this morning.
I got it.
Bottom line is, what I come up with is an estimate, and this is not staffing it with permanent staffing. This is just having the existing staff maintain it, you know, mowing and so on. Since we have talked about in the past, what I've suggested is coming up with a greens division, and what we're doing right now is we're trying this pilot, I guess you'd call it project. We're trying it out right now, see if it'll work before we commit any of our funds for 2 new positions. So we're using existing staff to see if we can maintain by mowing and trimming trees and so on, the parks, picking up trash with one group. It'll be five people, and all they're going to do is just be mowing, trimming trees, and picking up trash at all the parks, including the parks on the island. We tried it a couple of weeks ago, but the staff or the person I put in charge kind of overdid it, and he was trying to make an impression and work the guys to death. So what we're going to do is I put another person in charge, and we're waiting for some of our equipment to get fixed, and we're going to try it one more time. They're going to go throughout the county, and what we do is we have a route. They're going to start probably at Laguna Heights, go out through Adolfo Tamay, Santa Rosa, Santa Maria, El Ranchito, and come all the way around. We think we can do it in about a week and a half, the entire park system. So if we can do that, we can save on staff, we can save on equipment for the park. So what I've done is I've come up with a budget, including some part-time staff that we can hire seasonally to maintain and keep the restrooms clean, stuff that I guess periodically needs to be taken care of immediately. But as far as the rest of the group, they're going to be go out there maintaining the park. So my estimate is $51,650 for maintenance of each one of the community parks.
Javier, the one thing that came up at one of my advisory committees, for instance, Santa Maria, when they rent that community center, is that being coordinated the same, or how are you? Who's our contact person when they want to rent
Right,
it?
the contact person is Jaime Loya.
Jaime Loya. I'm thinking that, do you have a sign up there saying?
I think there is. I think Jaime had mentioned that to me last time because something come up, I can't remember what it was, and I asked him to make sure that his number was there, and he said yes, that there was a phone number that was there, which is his cell number.
Okay, so you're saying that, I mean, I read Brownie Road up here,
Right, I'm sorry.
right?
Yes.
But that could be any park.
It can be any park.
So you're saying that we're gonna need $400,000 roughly to be able to maintain the parks? Because we're looking at 8 or 9 parks, right?
So you're saying this is just for county parks?
Yeah, I'm saying, you know,
I-
we're looking at COs to build, how many parks? I didn't count.
This is the template we use for the other parks that we're
Right.
looking at.
Yeah, but there's,
Construction.
I think, I came up with 168,000, that's for 3 parks, which is Rio Hondo, La Paloma, and Laureles.
well, we're
And
issuing
then-
bonds for 8, okay?
Yeah, but some
Right,
of those are
that's-
little tiny parks. I mean, like Los Indios Park, I mean,
Yeah, the Indios
I mean,
is-
that's just a block.
And Cameron
And not only
Square
that,
blocks.
Los Indios also, the
Cameron
the
Park, we
advisory
already have a
committee
budget for
has
it.
already committed to maintain
Yeah.
that,
Cameron
For
Park's
us.
committed already.
and so is Cameron Park.
Yeah, so the volunteers are there.
Yes.
And I don't know, and I don't, to be honest with you, just, I don't know that the amount of the bond issue that we're going to issue will ultimately result in the construction of all these parks, because as usually happens, we'll go over budget on some of these things, and you end up building less than what's on the, but I mean, that's the wish list that you want to have and so forth. And I just think that $51,000 figure is a little high, particularly if we're going to tap into the sheriff prisoner at work program. I think we need to do more. I mean, I really think, Sheriff, that we need to look at the possibility of adding another van, another crew that just is dedicated to parks, doing nothing but that, and we'll fund it. We should fund it to do that. The payoff for us in the long run is really good, and I think you can probably, as we grow in jail population, you probably can easily get another crew to just work on parks, and I think that could save us a lot of money.
Judge,
Yeah, because the personnel that we would fund there plus the van is significantly less than what we would spend in operations and maintenance if we hired the people to do it, and I just think we need to do that. And in other words, one of the things, the problem that the sheriff has had in the past on the prisoner work program is he's getting pulled from all directions. Everybody wants to use the PAW program, and that's fine because that's what it's for, right? But I think that we need to make a decision that as a county commissioners court, we need to dedicate one crew just to our parks and have him working on our parks 100% of the time. And it's fair, it should be that way, and it's going to cost us some money, but the amount of money that we spend on that is significantly less than the amount of money that we're going to end up spending in hiring all the people that otherwise we would have to hire if we weren't using prisoners for free. Everything. Locksmith.
Welders,
I don't want to practice too much.
welders.
Yeah, I'd like to, Remy, if we can bring back an item on the agenda next couple of weeks and see if we can put together a crew on that and fund it. And as long as we have a commitment from you, Sheriff, that will be dedicated nothing but just to community parks. Okay, thank you. See?
the other thing I was going to mention, Judge, excuse me, Commissioner, there's 4 items in there, and what I've done is I've kind of fluffed them up, just, worst case scenario. Building maintenance. If we build these things, we're going to have to maintain them for a couple of years, we hope. Equipment maintenance, building improvements, and equipment, so.
Okay.
I don't see insurance there, is there? It's in there? Where
Property
is it?
insurance, 6056.
56?
6056.
6056.
$2,000 per park?
Yes,
That should cover us?
that should cover us. 'Cause that's what we have. I used Brownie Road as a
An example.
example or template.
Okay, any other questions?
I just want to make sure, we will have to generate some funds. Let's just say 400,000 M&O, maintenance and operation for the parks, okay? That would translate to how many spaces do we have at Isla Blanca Park?
We have about 600,
600.
plus Adolph Tomei, and then plus Andy Bowie.
But the revenues generated
Correct.
are mostly from those spaces.
From Isla Blanca, correct.
And
Well,
there
the
would
other
be-
is always full, and Tomei.
But that, I mean, if you want to show, I mean, Adolph Tomei barely breaks even with operations and
Maybe we need to look at that one too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but see, we're putting up parks that not only will not break even, but will, all the rest of the
Yeah.
parks are gonna be a burden to the
Yeah.
taxpayer. Okay? So we need, if one breaks even, that's good. If some of them can produce money, that's even better, so, which is the case with those sites there. It would be a reasonable assumption to say that we could raise that kind of money with an increase, reasonable increase?
I think so. Just
I mean, I don't know if
comparing,
you're gonna need 400,000. I think that's the
But
big
even if
issue.
you did, if you've got 600 spaces, and spread that out through on a 12-month basis, that's not going to be an unreasonable ability to capture that money. But we're just going to have to be sure that that money is dedicated, you know, and stays within the
And
park
stays there.
system to where you have the ability to take care of and maintain and operate these other parks. Because parks in general normally are public parks, and they normally don't generate revenue. We're fortunate we have a quasi-public mobile home park or RV park that we charge for, and revenue is generated there. And as the judge was saying, it's not a public park. Once I lease a space there for 2 or 3 months or 6 months, no one else can use it, it's mine.
And the irony of it is that it accounts for at least 2/3 of all of Isla Blanca Park.
Yeah,
At least 2/3.
space-wise.
That is not available to the public.
Well, I recommend then that Javier come back with a report for us, not only on Isla Blanca, but also Tomei. I mean, look at all where we can get some revenue, where we are getting revenue, and see where we can increase.
Okay, all right. Any other questions on the consent items and the travel items? If not, there's a motion to approve. Did you make a motion, Commissioner Tamayo? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We'll hold off on the executive session items. Item number one, yes, I did. Item number one of the first supplemental item, consideration and possible action regarding the issuance of bonds, Cameron County, Texas Certificates of Obligation, Series 2006, for the construction, renovation, and expansion of the Cameron County Park System to include but not limited to additional county parks and facilities in the communities of La Paloma, El Ranchito, Cameron Park, Laureles, San Pedro, Rio Hondo, Isla Blanca Park, and the construction of a Boys and Girls Club at Santa Rosa in an amount not to exceed $8 million. We, by the way, on this thing, just for clarification purposes, we put in the Boys and Girls Club in Santa Rosa because we're short, we believe, around $50,000, más o menos, depending upon whether or not we get a grant from the Moody's Foundation, which we've been in consultation. Okay, great. Another one?
Yes.
Okay. Is that two then? Okay, from him.
No, one from him, one from
How much did he give? 5,000?
Look.
You should give as much as he gave Carlos in the campaign. That's just gonna work. That'd be another $20,000, man. Okay. Well, anyway, go back to the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Rosa. We have allocated about $540,000 from the federal government, right? Is it, or $640,000? Where's Remy?
Remy.
How much is the amount of grants that we've gotten from the congressional
Stay
authorization?
focused, Ramy.
Is it 640?
No, it's 540,000 that it's coming from HUD.
Right. That's already been approved. And then we've got an application to the Moody Foundation, Meadows Foundation, and we think that there's going to be a significant grant on that that'll leave us short. We've gotten about $15,000 in contributions, right?
Yeah.
Or 10 or 15. We've got an application pending with AEP that we should be hearing on that soon. That's going to leave us about $50,000 short, more or less. And so that's, depending upon where we end up when the bond money comes up, that's the amount of money that we're requesting to finish it up and start construction on that facility.
And this
So-
is pretty much the issue we were beating to death, the same horse we were beating to death on 18 and 19.
Yes. Well, that one, the M&O money,
Well,
No.
as far as the way I'm going to vote on it,
yeah,
we've got M&O money to do this.
right. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. I'm Dave Gordon with Estrada Hinojosa, the county's financial advisor. I'm also here with Gavino Sotelo. What I'm presenting here is a plan of finance to pay for the debt service for the proposed park system, and of course it doesn't address the M&O budget that you've already been discussing. We are calling these Series 2007 actually just because the proposed schedule that's in here would show closing in calendar year 2007. If you turn to the first page after the cover sheet, you notice this is a structure of the county's existing debt. You can see the general collections rate about 94% on the left-hand side. 12.2 billion is the county's certified taxable assessed valuation. The next column over is column C, is showing moderate growth. The growth in the county's AV last year was about 12%, so this is certainly within reason. The existing debt, working our way across the page, you can see the current self-supporting park system debt, bridge debt, and then moving to the right, you can see the total tax rate required from the INS side is 0.034753 or 3.48 cents. If you turn to the next page, this shows the issuance of $8 million of certificates of obligation backed by an ad valorem tax pledge as well as additional revenues from the park system. And if we move to columns E, F, and G, this shows the debt service. You can see the principal, interest, and then the total of that debt service for the $8 million. This is shown using current market rates plus 20 basis points. There's a little bit of cushion in play here, and this would return just over 7.6, almost $7.7 million in terms of what the actual project funds would be available for the county. And if we work our way across the page again, on column K, you'll show that you would need to do an issue contribution or a contribution for the county to pay for that first interest payment, which would be due in August 15th of 07. Now, potentially, you could restructure the bond so that we forego that interest payment and had the first interest payment be due in February 15th of 08. But that would cost you a little bit on the interest rate scale that you'd be able to secure. Finally, moving across the page, you'll notice that the way we have this structure right now, there would not be a tax rate increase required for next year to support this debt, assuming a growth rate in the AV of 5% and the collections rate of 94%. And I went through that relatively quickly. Are there any questions on?
So what's the total amount that we can borrow?
The total amount that I'm showing here is $8 million. I think the item that was on the agenda was not to exceed $8 million, so we capped it at that. Again, what you would net in terms of what you could use for projects in this particular proposed scenario is $7.677 million. Certainly, the county could borrow more if they'd like to. What was on the agenda again was not to exceed $8 million.
What is the amount that you would recommend that we not exceed, just to stay within the projections that you've given us? The 7.6 or the 8?
Well, the 8 again is that's the par amount. The 7.6 is net of issuance costs.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't explain that clearly enough.
All right, so it would be the 8.
Exactly, sir. You'd issue $8 million, and then you would net about $7.6 million. I think is shy of covering all the park projects that you wanted, but certainly construction costs and different things might come in.
How does the current rate on outstanding debt compare to the new rate that we're looking at?
Well, rates have actually are continuing to be very low from a historic perspective. Short-term rates are quite high right now in the sense that the yield curve, if you were to look at the yield curve, typically interest rates, say a year out, are much less than those that are 20 years out. Right now, that is not really the case, and you're only seeing a slight difference between short-term rates and long-term rates. If you look at U.S. Treasuries, it's actually inverted, where short-term U.S. Treasury rates are higher than long-term rates right now. So it's a little bit unique in that perspective, but rates overall are low, and it is a good time if you were contemplating issuing debt to do so based on a rate perspective.
Yeah, but how do the rates we have on existing bonds compared to what we think we're going to be getting on the new bonds?
Well, your rates, because you've issued debt, throughout the years, some of your rates are certainly higher than others, and these are not refunding bonds. This is new debt, so really there's not a particular relevance, but your rates are, for example, debt you've issued in 2003 and 2004 when rates were at extremely low levels. Those rates are lower than debt that you issued
what we would
previously.
expect.
Right. If we go to the next page, we have a proposed timeline here in terms of accomplishing the goal of issuing the debt or selling the certificates prior to the end of the calendar year. Of course, these are certificates of obligation, so you'd need to advertise 2 times in a local publication with 1 week between each of those advertisement dates, and I've got that in here at November 20th and November 27th. We would, of course, go through the process of getting ratings and preparing the official statement and things of that nature. And this proposed schedule shows selling the debt on, pricing the obligations on December 11th and then selling it at the Commissioners Court meeting on December 12th. Going much beyond that into the end of the year presents a difficult or potentially difficult situation in terms of selling the bonds just because the bond market starts to kind of wrap up for the year and people go on vacation and such. On this schedule, then, we would deliver the obligations and close the transaction on January 25th. And again, that's the reason we kind of stylized these as Series 2007.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
As the financial advisors, because of the fact that we don't have an M&O, you would still recommend that we do this?
Well, we really didn't have any opportunity to explore the M&O ramifications, and I obviously listened to this discussion you just had, and I think that's something that needs to be addressed, of course, and needs to be explored without knowing the details more, and knowing how easily that goal is to be obtained. I don't know that I want to comment on that, but you certainly would need to be able to support the M&O side of the budget. Again, how easily you can get there from here is something that you're going to need to work through with your staff, and we certainly would be happy to help in that endeavor, but haven't evaluated that at this particular point.
All right, any other questions? Is there a motion to approve item number 1? No, I'm sorry.
Well, we hadn't had a chance to look at the numbers, any possible rate increases at the RV system. The park system earned net income of $11,000 last year, and that includes $600,000 in plus of depreciation. Now that's an expense that you don't see cash flowing, but you do see your assets deteriorating and that need yearly maintenance, and that's really what that money goes to. But looking at the bottom line of the park system net assets, it dropped $500,000. Now, a lot of that may be associated with acquiring property, but even though it was at a break-even venture last year, and that's where the park system should be. We do have reserves in case there is a serious storm that would put out the RVs out of commission for a period of time. But that is reserves set up, and it came in very much in play when we had the Causeway collapse. It was able to keep people employed and keep the park system going while we were not able to enjoy the revenues that we normally do. There is a lot of risk with having all your cash generators on a barrier bar island. If we were to take a hurricane hit, there is a good chance we would lose a month of operations if it was significantly, if it were a like hurricane, if it was a significant hurricane, it'd probably take us 2 or 3 months. And those are our general prime earning periods. And so looking at $8 million, we're looking at a debt service annually of about $600,000, and bringing on 4 more additional community parks you know, we can have the prisoners at work there with county employees, but prisoner at work program is funded through the commissary actions activity, and that fund is running real thin at this point too. And so we don't know whether the RV slips will pay for any additional M&O costs of these parks. We haven't run those numbers. The other thing that concerns me is we don't have a timeline on the construction of these projects because, and I wish your financial advisor would address this, typically when you borrow money, you have 24 months to spend it. Then if you do not spend it within a certain period of time, and usually it's about 24%, 25% in the first 6 months, and then it escalates to 50 and 75 benchmarks we have to hit before we become subject to arbitrage requirements. And with a flat yield curve where your earnings are almost matching the cost of your money, we have a problem there where we may be giving money back to the federal government because we're selling tax-exempt bonds. Is that something you could address?
Sure. As Mr. Yates mentioned, there are specific arbitrage requirements in terms of spend-down requirements for tax-exempt obligations. And he also quickly addressed that in today's earning environment, you certainly could earn more, say, for example, with certificates of deposit that would be beyond the arbitrage requirements or the arbitrage limit of the bonds. Having said that, what you would be rebating to the federal government would be money that is basically earnings that would be recaptured. This is not money that you didn't have previously. So
it's not going to affect the bottom line dollar amount of the bond. It's only the earnings of that money, right?
You're correct on that. And the other issue is we borrowed money a year and a half ago to renovate the jail and address issues, and we're still sitting on sizable balances that will be subject to arbitrage analysis, and I will have to come to the court. What we would like to see is a timeline of these park constructions so we can time the borrowing so that the expenditures can take place in a 2-month or 24-month period. We don't have a history of that particular process of planning. It's good to have the bid price in place so we know exactly how much to borrow. And as Judge Hinojosa had stipulated, lots of times the bid prices are in excess of our original budget. And so other projects that we plan typically do not get done, like the vehicle maintenance barn and records warehouse. So those are problems that occur because budgets are preliminary set and they typically come in excess of what we anticipate.
Yes. With the firm that's doing the plans now, and whoever we select, whatever.
Yeah, I was going to say, Commissioner, if you could bring that thing a little closer because you can't hear you.
The community parks cost us $300,000 in maintenance and salaries, and a lot of that has to do with lifeguard costs. Even if we add another $200,000 for 4 more community parks, and then adding a $600,000, we're talking about $800,000 in additional requirements on the park system that at best is breaking even. So we're going to have to raise rates to cover.
Well, I thought that's what we were saying. Yeah.
Right, but we don't have those contracts, we don't have those agreements and rates in place at this time. Yes, you want to raise rates, but what I suggest is you bring those rates next week at Commissioners Court and approve them, and then we can determine how much will come in.
Well,
So right
Mark,
now
if
we
you
don't
were
have-
listening to our discussion, that's exactly what we asked for.
Right, but we're planning on spending.
Bring that to us.
Right, but I would have those rates ahead of time before we actually borrow the money.
Again, I repeat, we've already asked for that, Mark.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate the idea of planning ahead and taking into consideration storms and hurricanes and things like that, but that's all part of operating. If we have a major hurricane on the island, it's not just the parks. That's 17% of the taxable value of the county. So
You're absolutely right on
have a lot more issues to worry about.
There's a lot more vulnerability than I actually expressed.
Yeah, I mean, look,
And
you know,
that's true life that we deal with every day. So
it's
we
not
need
like,
to stop
it's not like we,
worried about that.
it's not like we haven't already started the planning process. I mean, we've got architects working on
Yeah,
all these
that's-
projects almost right now, and they should be finalizing those plans.
Exactly.
And I mean, you know, I mean, we've always had this issue, and we've got to just move forward. These parks are a good idea for our community. I think we can generate enough M&O to cover it, and I feel fairly certain that if we push them, we'll get them built in 24 months.
And it's an issue that I've pretty much consistently voted against until I know we're going to have the way to maintain and operate it. And Javier, I appreciate you putting some of that together for us so I can be confident that it's going to happen. I believe it will.
And if you go ahead and share your timeline, Javier, as soon as you have it complete as to
All right, can I have a
process.
I move we go ahead and
Second.
approve the presentation.
Second.
approve the issuance of the bonds? Okay.
It's a presentation.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by stating
Judge.
aye.
Aye.
In that motion, I'm assuming that it's going to include for the Adolph Time Park, the Brownie Road Park,
Everything
Isla
that's
Blanca Park,
listed on the...
Everything that's listed.
community parks, Andy Park. If I could just read them into the record, Judge, because they may be different from one form to the other.
They better be what's on the agenda.
Yeah, what's on the agenda needs to include some of the specifics like El Ranchito and the La Paloma Park, because the list that I dictated, what the judge was dictating, is that list, but the reimbursement resolution included the names of additional park projects that was attached to the backup, which is why I included that.
Okay.
So if I complete the list, it'll include all those that are listed there, but it'll just make sure that each of the projects that are being considered is addressed.
On this backup, right?
Yes.
Okay, we're going by this.
Yes, for the actual parks and the priorities. As I was saying, E.K. Atwood Park, Los Indios Park, Rio Hondo Park, La Paloma Park, Cameron Park, Lorelos Park, Escape Park, on Isla Blanca, Brownie Road Social Services, Highway 48 Boat Ramp, the Santa Rosa Boys and Girls Club, and the El Ranchito Park.
All right, there's a motion and a second. That included the motion and a second, yes?
Yes.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you. Item number 3, consideration and authorization to issue and advertise request for qualification for design services for the development of fourth floor family court area to include a child-friendly environment, private interview rooms, and family members, courtroom, and office space for court-related social services. Let me tell you, I mean, campaigns are good for a couple of reasons. One, it lets people have the will to decide who their leaders are. That didn't go too good for me, but the second part of it actually did go real good for me, which is it gives you an opportunity to get out there and talk to people in our community that are out there dealing with everyday issues that affect people's lives. And one of the things that I found out when I was out there kind of confirmed some of the things that were bothering me for quite some time, which is that we've not paid sufficient attention, in my opinion, to the issues of children who are in the child welfare system in a lot of different respects. I mean, you've seen the articles in the newspapers with respect to, the child welfare system in the state of Texas being indicted by a grand jury for neglecting children. And we all know that it is a big problem, but, even in our own backyard, we've got some significant issues that we need to relate to. I mean, we've invested money in projects like the two homes, Monica's house and Maggie's house, and those are good projects that make a real big difference in our community. But understand what Monica's house and Maggie's house is. That is the location, that is the place where a child is taken when a child, we believe, has been abused, and that's the interview spot. In the whole scheme of things, with respect to where our children are in the process, it is a very, very, very small component. It is only that component that helps the prosecutors develop their case for prosecution of the offenders. The children that are in the system go through much more than that. They're in the system with respect to when the prosecution issue arises, but then they're in the system with respect to what is going to happen to them. They're placed in foster care, they're run through the court system, and it's a prolonged system because these kids, the people who are working with children, they're not there just to simply take the kids away and that's it. They're there to protect the children, but also work, if it is possible and in the best interest of the child, for reunification of these children with their families, if it can be done. And that takes a long time because it takes a while to deal with the families, to deal with the children, to deal with through the court system to get recommendations, to deal with lawyers, to deal with ultimately judges that are making these decisions, and it causes these children to come to the courthouse on a regular basis for a significant period of time. And I don't know if you've been there on the days that the court, the child welfare court is operating. It is a sad sight to see. I mean, you walk out of the elevator and there's children all over the place. And they're dealing with their foster parents. The foster parents, some of them are sitting on the floor. The kids are, you know, they've gone through the worst thing that any human being can go through, which is they've been taken away from their parents. None of us, I believe, have ever gone through that experience. Not that we remember. And it is a traumatic experience for them to be going through. If you compound that experience with having them go to court in an environment that is not at all conducive to dealing with the issues that are affecting them, you're just exacerbating their problem, in my opinion. And I believe that you know, we can do one of two things. We can take the easy way out that the state has taken historically, and even Cameron County has taken historically, and just say, well, that's somebody else's problem. You know, we'll fund what we need to fund, and we're not going to worry about it. Or we can say, that's not going to happen in our county. We're not going to allow that to happen in our county. We're going to take what we've got and make it try to work, make an effort to make it try to work for our children. These are our kids. These are kids in our community. And so one of the thought that went through my head as we went through this last year of campaigning was that maybe what we ought to do is now that we've vacated the fourth floor of the Cameron County the former Cameron County Courthouse, and that maybe we ought to look, and I know that the judges want us to build courtrooms there, and I know that there's a big dispute right now between the family law court and the child welfare court because the family law court essentially needs their court 100% of the time, and so that leaves nothing for the child welfare court. That perhaps what we ought to do is now construct facilities at that fourth floor that make them friendly towards children. And what I'm proposing is this, is that we take the area that is right now where the county judge's office used to be, and the area where the courtroom is at today, and divide that up into two courtrooms, okay? And have a chambers, a full chambers for the family law court, and a small chambers for the child welfare court, since there's not a permanent, the child welfare judge is not there permanently, but have a place for him to be able to come out and meet with lawyers and so on. And design at least the component of it. That would require moving walls, because essentially you have to make the Cameron County Commissioner's courtroom smaller. It really is bigger than it needs to be for purposes of a family law court. And make it smaller and to allow for a family law court. Take the offices that are located right now where the County Commissioner's Council is at, and perhaps look at putting interview rooms for the families that where when the child welfare worker is there and a lawyer is there and a CASA representative is there, they've got a place to go to meet to talk about what's going to happen, rather than meeting out in the hallway, and where you have temporary reunifications of families at the courthouse. Instead of having them reunify in the hallway, you have a place for them to go so that you can have a sane environment, a friendly environment, something that the child's not going to be traumatized with, and people can be more in a way that is more conducive to trying to find a solution to these children's problems. Also, I think in that area, we probably should create, in that same area, somewhere where these children can be at. You know, where they're not on that hallway, where you have a space where you've got, like things for them to play with while they're waiting for something to happen, where the foster parents are in there with them. A much better environment being out in the home, I have talked to the CASA representatives in the past, and, CASA provides child advocates for our children, and they are critical to the whole system because they're the only objective personnel outside of the judge that is able to advocate for children. I believe that CASA needs to be in the courthouse because they're the ones that are dealing with these kids on an ongoing basis. And so I'm proposing that we look at the space that's up there, and I know the district judges want to use it, but we can only build 2 courtrooms up there. There's not enough room for more than 2 courtrooms. So if we have 2 courtrooms up there, one of them is going to be a family law court, and one of them is going to be another courtroom that I would propose be designed for child welfare cases. When it's not being used for that, obviously the district judges can use it for visiting judges and so forth. It's going to be a courtroom. But then also have that space available for interviews with the parents and children and so forth. And then I'm proposing that if CASA is willing to send their people to be stationed on a permanent basis on the 4th floor, allocate some office space for them, maybe where Daryl Hester's offices were at. There's a lot of office space if you could fit people in there to be able to be there present where the children need them to be present. I'm sorry, David, were you going to say something?
I certainly agree with what you want to accomplish in making this a much more friendly environment for the children and families that come to the courts that are required to be there. I think there's a couple other things though that I'd like to take into consideration. Maybe we can consider, and one of them, I guess, is security. We all know that the administration building over there does not have the type of security that the courts building has. Also, we understand from what our plans have been is that the DA's office is going to expand into the 3rd floor of the administration building that the auditor's office left. And there has been some talk about the possibility of the DA's office also taking the 4th floor as office space, then creating possibly these courts in the environment that you're talking about into the DA's area that they currently occupy in the courts building, where you'd have good security, where you'd have an ease of bailiffs getting back and forth and doing their job, and having that combined of where you can provide the environment that the children need, that the families need, and also protect them from, as we all know, when I used to ride around the police department, you don't get out of domestic violence disputes, when you're called there, because those are the worst times. And those types of things can certainly happen, and we need to be as secure as possible with these families and children, which I'm not saying that we've neglected in the past, we just haven't possibly had the opportunity to make it as secure as we really should. And I think the DA's office has some thoughts and probably would be willing to make that move and relocating their folks and give us as much room as we need in their area to create these 2 courts and to create the environment for the children.
Let me just say before David speaks on this, we've looked at that issue exactly because it makes sense from a security perspective. The problem is that essentially what was proposed is an exchange of the 4th floor with the DA's office, and the exchange doesn't match. There simply isn't enough room where the DA's office is to create 2 full courtrooms and to have these other things that I've suggested on that. It is a very small area. At best, you would have 2 very small courtrooms in the DA's office and no room for anything else.
Well, I think the area you're referring to, Judge, and I know that David is very familiar with this because he's active with Maggie's house and Monica's house, as I was, that safe, you can call it a holding area or whatever you want to call it for kids, and they're having to wait there, and it's extremely traumatic. And I know all of you experienced this when we leave court, and there's these kids and parents all over the place and on the floor, and kids are crying, and you can see in their faces this look of the unknown, and those kids are really traumatized. They're traumatized when they get there, and we've done a real good job, and you know, now we're trying to do something about it, but we've done a real good job of making things worse for them. So I definitely feel that it has to be an area where you have allowed an area for that, what I'm calling a holding room. I don't know what else to call it.
Well, I think that, you know, I tend to agree with what you're saying, Judge, because we've neglected the security in that building per se, especially on court days. Not necessarily our court days, but in the court days when we have family court or child court. And if there was a plan that could be provided that would accommodate what you're saying, I would not have a problem, but I still think we should not compromise the security of that building. I think that we should plan for having security for everyone that enters that building. If you go to a number of courthouses in most urbanized areas, such as us, there is security measures to enter into the courthouse.
Well, I mean, I think the court is going to have to bite the bullet no matter what on that issue. I mean, ultimately, you have to have security for that whole that whole building, and you're going to have to shut the back down, and you're going to have to put, because the DA's office is going to set up security. It's going to cost money. So why not just, if you're going to have the family court, you know, I've been in the judicial system for many years, and the most dangerous courtrooms are not criminal law courtrooms, they're family law courtrooms, because of the emotions that are involved and the tendency, you know, when you've seen people getting shot and murdered, it's usually in family law cases. So I think that ultimately the security issue needs to be dealt with on that side of the building, on the first floor, for anybody that comes into that courthouse, because it's ultimately going to be something we're going to have to deal with, and it's going to cost some money, and I think it needs to be done. The issue, though, before us is whether we make a decision to continue where we're going or to change where we're going, and my proposal is that we change where we're going. David?
Yes, just to address two of your concerns. The security, if it were just, on behalf of Mr. Villalobos, we are willing, continuing to make this offer where we give up our office space in exchange for the fourth floor. We had the same security concerns that the court has. Our security concerns are a little bit different from the judicial concerns that are there. We have 8 investigators that are in-house, and you know, we secure our doors, and so I don't think that there would be an additional expense with respect to security if we were to secure the 3rd and 4th floor in that respect. Now, also, and we did discuss, you know, the lack of space that would be in our current setting for the 2 courts, but I don't think that we took into account what we have on the 1st floor. We actually have a setup for the crime victims, where crime victims, people that have gone through these types of traumas, that are victims of all sorts of horrendous domestic violence, rape, aggravated assaults, all these sorts of things, where we actually have these people on the 1st floor to take care and to give them a safe harbor, if you will. And I think that would be a perfect, I feel confident that Mr. Villalobos would be happy to, in exchange for the space that we currently occupy on the 1st floor, the space that we currently occupy on the 2nd floor, to exchange that for the 4th floor, and to keep us in a contiguous area, to keep the courts in a contiguous area. And I think, and I haven't done I don't know the square footage, but I think once you add that floor space that we currently occupy right now on the 1st floor, I think it's pretty close to an even match, but I really haven't seen the numbers to...
What would you be doing with those crime victims that you normally now house on the 1st floor?
We'd put them in the 4th floor. We would seclude them and keep them with our crime victims advocates that are in the 4th floor. We would probably exchange that space for the crime victims. What we do with the crime victims, we often prepare them for trial. It's not necessarily a one-day type of affair where on this particular day is when they have to be there. It is an ongoing routine for prepping victims for trial, for getting them prepared for taking the witness stand and to be peppered by all sorts of aggressive, harmful questions. And so it is a continuing affair that we set up our advocates with our attorneys to to sort of counsel them and prepare them for the trauma of court. But I think that the space that we have now would be perfect for the kids, because I've seen how Commissioners Court is, and I've seen the kids.
But it's only, David, perfect for one courtroom. You don't have enough room for two courtrooms. The problem is that we have the need for two courtrooms. We have a family law court that's there. We have funded and set up a full-time family law court. And there's no question in my mind that, based upon what I see there, that the space that you have on in where you're at right now is not enough room for two courts. And if it is, the best that you're going to have is courts are probably a little bit bigger than a JP court right now. And I don't think that's going to meet anybody's needs, because remember, right now, as best as I could tell, after January 1, 5 out of the 6 district courts are going to be using the family law court. All divorces, all child custody cases, everything dealing with, for the whole 400,000 population county are going to be located in that one family court. You know, I was a district judge 16 years ago, and 16 years ago, that was a significant component of my docket. Now, if you take 6 courts or 5 courts, multiply it by what you have today, you're not going to be able to do that. And there's no question, based upon what I'm told, that there's not enough room to do it in one court. So you can't do it. I mean, I know what you want to do, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work because of the space issues that you've got there. And it doesn't really matter that you have the space downstairs. Last I remember, this Commissioners Court had decided to give all that back to the state bar, or the county bar association, but that's another issue. But the problem is that what I'm looking at in terms of being able to put together courtrooms is the space that you've got on the second floor of the judicial section of the courthouse. And that space is not enough. It's barely enough for one court, much less 2 courts. And so even if you don't do the child-friendly, child welfare court that I'm recommending, you still don't have enough room for 2 courts there. And clearly, if you want to set up interview rooms or I don't know what you call it, but like a holding area for the kids that's outside of the public, there isn't any room there for that. There clearly would not be enough room to handle that. I mean, we have to make a decision. I think it's a non-issue with respect to the security issue, simply because no question in my mind, and everybody agrees, that you've got to secure the whole right side of the courthouse at the floor level now.
And the only other factor I would throw, and you have me at a disadvantage, Judge, because I really don't know the floor space arrangement. I thought there would be an even split or an even swap with the second floor and the first floor. But in addition to that, we would also, I know that there's some other departments that perhaps could be placed that do work with our office, like the bail bond administration. You know, things like that could be, that we work with. We have a member in that board that perhaps could be placed in our office that doesn't require, constant access to the courts. But, again, Judge, you have me at a disadvantage. I really don't know what the floor space trade-off is.
We've looked at it. We've looked at the numbers, and the square footage is significantly different. I mean, you have still in the administration of, things that you need to look at is, on the first floor of the administration side, the elections administrator is moving. Now, I know that Mr. Izaguirre wants all that space, but the question is, does he need all of that space? I mean, that's something you need to look at. We've got the Veterans Office. I know that there's a proposal to acquire some of the BISD property and maybe move the Veterans Administration over there to allow for more room. I mean, there's things that can be worked on to make a better use of that side of the building. But the long and the short of it is that if you want 2 courtrooms, then the only place for them to fit, in my opinion, is on the 4th floor of the
Well, we continue to make the offer, Judge, or whatever's in the county's best interest.
May I ask, do we have a funding source?
Well, what I was going to suggest, let me throw something out on this, okay, so that we can maybe eliminate the funding issue. I talked to my brother, who's an architect, and asked him if he would pro bono a design for us, and he said that he would. And so let me see if I can come up with a design for y'all in the next 2 weeks to bring back to you for free. And he
Well, can we do an RFQ anyway?
Yeah, if you
For
want to do an
yeah,
RFQ.
for whatever.
You can have a proposal.
And then we can do an RFQ, that's fine, if you want to do that, I don't care. And then, let's say, so we'll do an RFQ, it takes 30 days. In the meantime, if he comes up with a proposal, we can cancel the RFQ and do it that way. Is that all right?
Mr. Forbes?
Can we accept donated stuff like that? Can.
Yeah, he's done a lot of donated stuff for the county.
There's certain guarantees that we enter into a contract with an architect. There are certain protections that the county does have through the contractual negotiations. If you receive pro bono work and it ultimately utilize that service, then we don't have those protections. Isn't that right, Mr. Burst? But what I'm saying is when we engage architectural services, we negotiate certain bonds, certain performance guarantees that are protections of design and nature of what we engage in regardless of the price. And so those are, if we accept and ultimately utilize free work, then we are not receiving any warranty of the work we're looking to buy. Well, I mean, you know, I don't care what anybody does as far as drawing designs, but if we ultimately utilize them, we won't have any guarantees that would be around in a contractual
Yeah,
arrangement.
we don't now, Mark.
Well, that's
The
something
last
that can be
time,
fixed.
hold on just a second. Last time when we designed out, give me a break, Mark. The last time when we designed out the courtroom at the 357th, we didn't use an architect. Just Marcelino went out there. I told him what I wanted him to do, and he said this is going to be the way to do it. I mean, I don't know that Marcelino has any bond issues. All my brother's going to do is give you a layout on how Marcelino's going to build it. Give me a break.
I think the distinction between what Mr. Yates is saying and what you're proposing is that your brother was going to provide a conceptual design.
Yeah, that's
it wasn't
it.
drawing up a set of plans that were going to be ready to move to construction.
It's going to tell Marcelino how
Show
to
how.
design up those offices and courtrooms for it to be able to be child-friendly. I mean, that's it. It's not, huh?
Maybe we should not do an RFQ?
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple thing. It just makes it a little bit easier and saves some money and gets this thing going at a time that we need
It's
it.
all about volunteerism.
Well, I
Mark.
understand that, but looking at electrical loads, which equipment is going to be there, how we're going to run network, we're trying to automate the courts. And yes, anybody can come up and put in what I call partitions of studs and drywall. I mean, but you have to look at, you're changing the flow of air. You have to look at your air-conditioned load balances. You have to know how you're going to run your network. You have to design your network. You have to know your electrical balance. In addition, we have generators at that building that are failing. And so we have to know how much electrical load that we're going to be putting in there. And so you're going to configure different walls.
We didn't do that when we added the courtroom at the library. We just,
You're
I
right,
mean,
you
you
did do that.
got the engineer's office to get together with Marcelino and they put it together.
And the 357th was not significantly changed as far as the room
What do you
configuration.
mean it was not significantly changed? I mean, give me a break. It is not the same courtroom not same building, it was a library.
And there were air condition issues with regards to that. And so I'm just a little concerned that we're going into a design of something that we ought to make sure that we have the proper air conditioning, electrical load, network capacity. So
And
there
we
is
can
some
hire
design.
somebody to tell us that. Huh? And we can have somebody to give us that information, Mark. I mean,
Thank you.
I make a motion for approval with the acceptance of the volunteer work.
all right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Well, but that's not on the agenda. Because what we have on there is to request for RFQ.
Okay, well, we can do that, and I'll come back to you all in a couple of weeks with a conceptual plan. Yeah, and then, and see how it works. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by state and I.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Judge, before you move on from the supplemental agenda, if I could get you to go back to item number 1. I know I'm being hyper-technical about this, but I'm sure Paul Martin would ask that in your motion that was made that you include the order authorizing the publication of notice of intention to issue certificates of obligation and other matters related thereto. That just authorizes the county judge to advertise that we're intending to sell the...
That was part of my motion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes, and it was part of my second.
And I'll give this copy of this to the clerk so that she'll know that too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, okay. Item number 4, consideration and possible action regarding the county's support of efforts in operation of the Cameron County Child Welfare Board. You know, in talking to the members of the Child Welfare Board, it is quite clear that they're just operating on a shoestring budget. They're out there by themselves. We appoint them. They don't have the resources. And I suggest that maybe we ought to make them a component of Cameron County and give them a budget. You know, even if it's a $25,000 a year budget or something like that. I mean, these people they're very involved in assisting the Child Welfare Department, providing services to them, but they don't have any resources to do it with. And I just think that we need to make a commitment. If we're going to make a commitment to kids, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. And I think it's something that we need to consider.
I would suggest you bring forth some kind of budget,
Judge,
some kind of funding.
If the Commissioners Court could authorize a budget officer to work with the representatives from the Child Welfare Board to draft up a budget to see what their requirements might be
and to see what their expenses are.
Exactly what the expenses are and what possible funding sources would be available.
Are they a separate 501c organization?
It's created by the legislature and the members are appointed by the county judge. I think I'm not sure if they come through the Commissioners Court.
I think it's appointed by all the commissioners.
Yeah, I think they might come through the Commissioners Court. I might be wrong by that.
Is it a 501c or?
No,
it's a state agency.
It's a board.
It's a board. It's a state-created board. It just doesn't have a
state-created board that doesn't have.
Kind of like the Historical Society?
Yeah,
kind of like that.
Something like that.
I mean, because we have the same issue that constantly occurs with that organization.
Right.
And, you know, we kind of push them off to the side and don't give them a whole, I know we give them about $5,000 a year to exist, but, you know, they didn't even get any space
They have an
here.
outstanding bill
So-
that they're concerned about.
Right.
Yeah, we've asked repeatedly for that invoice to be sent to Javier
I
to
think,
get taken care of.
you know, I mean, if we're going to be looking at some of these things, we need to kind of be fair across the board with these state-approved or appointed agencies that we have that are non-funded.
And actually, the court will have the opportunity to look at the Historic Commission in January of '07. That's usually when the court makes its appointments to that board.
Okay.
And then the motion would be for a report to be presented.
I think.
To move forward with.
What I'd like to suggest is that the motion be that we approve the concept of making the Child Welfare Board a part of a county, within the county's, Cameron County government system, and that a proposal be submitted on how to implement that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, realizing and knowing that we're pending the proposal
Right.
from you guys to
Budget
make
officer
sure that we can do it.
And representatives from the board.
All those in favor signify by state and I.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, I noticed there was other supplemental items, Remy?
And executive session, one track.
Okay, all right. The one travel item, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We can also amend that to take my name off, or at least my position off, and include Mr. Burst in my stead for that trip.
Okay, is that all right?
Yes.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by state and I.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Motion to go into regular executive session.
So moved.
By Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by state and I. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We're now in executive session pursuant to VTCA Government Code Section 5. Like Commissioner Garcia, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by state and I. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Items 25 and A and B. Move to table. Motion to table by Commissioner
Second.
Wood, second by Commissioner Tamani. Further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item number 25C, possible action on deliberation regarding real property concerning acquisition of parcel 137, Three Meadow Road in precinct number 4 area. Motion to authorize the purchase of the property for $2,600.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Tamani. Further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. First supplemental, the only supplemental item on executive session being possible action on confer with Commissioner Court Legal Counsel concerning the claim of Isabel Castillo. Motion to acknowledge report of counsel and authorize
So
to
moved.
proceed pursuant to directions in executive session by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Tamayo, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. We're adjourned.